Hello there, everyone. It's Kristi, and I'm here with my gossip buddy, Kevin. How you doing tonight, Kevin?
I'm very well, Christy. How are you?
I'm 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 a little bit in shock. I've been doing some research on this whole Kraut situation with the Discord server, and there are so many twists and turns and people who are now connected with it and to it that we're actually gonna do that last. We're gonna come to Kilroy first, and Kevin's gonna be taking the lead on that one in terms of doing the two stories that we advertised or I advertised in the title of being Kraut and Kilroy. And yes, so welcome to Kevin and Kristi and Kevin's. I'm first. Me. Kristi and Kevin's happy hour. And take it away, Kevin. Let's talk about Kilroy.
Yes, Kilroy. For those who don't know, and I presume you all do, but I'll give you a brief outline. It was a event that was due to take place in early 2018. I'm going to assume it probably will still happen, but possibly not. It's essentially collapsing under the weight of its own bullshit. And I'm going to talk up here because I saw at least some of this coming. In my people will remember I put out a video basically saying to Based Mama, which is a ridiculous name, who was one of the co-organisers and now essentially the organiser. We'll get onto that momentarily as well. I asked her whether Spencer, who had said he wanted to go to the event or would be interested in going, whether he would be allowed to go to the event, whether she would give a platform to Nazis, and she refused to answer. And I basically ended that conversation by saying, you don't have to answer me right now, but at some point you will have to answer. And then essentially, all she did by not answering me was kick the can down the road. She eventually decided, oh, we don't want these alt-right types. They're very, very bad people. And essentially, it's collapsing in under its own weight now because people can see, A, it's not absolutist free speech because nothing ever could be, and B, they rather like alt-like characters, many of whom have now pulled out. And I've got a partial list of those who have.
Oh yeah, let's hear those.
Tim Paul was one of the first because of the NDA incident. And interestingly, on the non-compete clause, a claim that has been made, that was introduced because some of the alt-right characters like Faith Goldie and James Allsup and the like were going to have a meet-up before the event. We're going to have like a fans alt-right meet-up thing. And in order to try and scupper that, they put the non-compete clause into the contract, which is why a lot of the alt-right people said they didn't want to sign it. And that was why that whole kerfuffle kicked up as well. So that was quite interesting. You got Lawrence Southern pulled out, Faith Goldie, who people remember from the Charlottesville thing. It was her accidentally the only footage found of live footage of the terrorist incident. James also, Brittany Pettibone, Peter Sweden is an interesting one. All these alt-right dickheads. Andrew Torber, the founder of Gab, which is essentially neo-Nazi Twitter. Andy Warski's pulled out, and indeed, even Dave Cullen has now pulled out of organising the event and very possibly pulled out of attending the event, even though it was essentially his baby, as it were. Yeah, he doesn't. He's used the partial excuse that his mother had died. Now, I don't want to claim that isn't the case, although it is the first time he's mentioned it. But I think he is using it as an excuse to detract from the real reason, which is he's been caught out in what we will talk about in the second part of the show. He was a part of the essentially doxing server that Kraut was running, and that's pulled him down into that mire of shit. And essentially, he wants to go offline for a bit, as indeed Kraut has. But we'll get onto that in a bit. So basically, even one of the co-organisers of the event has now pulled out, which is hilarious. Well, are fucking cowboys. When will these people learn? And the saltiness from the people who have paid their own hard-earned money into funding this event. What did they expect to happen? You're giving money over to people who've never organised an event. When are you going to learn these people are taking you for a fucking ride? They did the same thing with the Sarkeesian Effect documentary. Total shit show from start to finish. With the honey badgers who piss tens of thousands of dollars up the wall, including $20,000, I think it was, on a disbarred lawyer to fight a law case they couldn't possibly win. instead of giving that money to, I don't know, a men's homeless charity or something. And now this, you're just throwing good money away on these fucking shysters who don't know what they're doing. Stop. Anyway, Kristi, thoughts?
Yeah, so many thoughts, right? This conference, in a lot of ways, is another interesting analysis in terms of where the rhetoric and the value systems going on the right in the YouTube community sort of nexus with skepticism and atheism, and the extent to which the alt-right is part of that movement. And this conference actually has brought this tension to a head, because it does seem that there was, for Based Mama, a preference for panels on criticizing Islam, but not on allowing white nationalism.
Oh, just before we move on from that, I've got a fantastic the list. I found here the list of what do you call it? The panels, the different panels. When it was first announced, right, they put out this list of panels. Brilliant, right? The Place for Religion Today was one of them, which you know is definitely going to be about Muslims. Social Justice in Technology, which is basically people whinging about Anita Sarkeesian, presumably. When is art no longer art? Which is an interesting topic, but I don't see its relevance to free speech. Fake news, fair reporting in the media. That's going to be wanking off Donald Trump for an hour. Islam and the West. That's one panel. And then the next panel after that is After Islam. So you've got two panels on Islam, overtly. Then you've got a few more deplatforming, right or wrong. I wonder whether they're going to stand on that, especially considering they were trying to deplatform the alt-right. Anyway. Censorship in academia. That's probably just going to be wanking off Jordan Peterson for an hour. Also, we got free speech and immigration. Muslims again. Anti-social media. Is social media making us less compassionate? Now, that's unfortunately not a panel about our friend Anti-Social Media, the fantastic YouTube channel you should all go and subscribe to.
He's gotten like shout outs in like 3 out of the last 5 shows I've done. I don't want to hear any whinging. From him.
Well, he's salty. He's salty about not getting shouted out by Tim Blake, so I thought I'd show him out. And his name does appear, albeit completely accidentally.
Yeah, accidentally,
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And, of course, brilliantly, even though they said they didn't want to do one on identitarianism, one of them was history of identitarianism in Ireland.
In Ireland, though, yeah.
Yeah, so that's going to be Dave Cullen. That's going to be Dave Cullen wanking off white people for an hour. Brilliant. But he's probably not going now, so who knows? Yeah, and then there's some other ones about net neutrality and LGBT, and although it's LGBT and the voices of dissent, so that's going to be wanking off Marley Yiannopoulos for an hour. And yeah, there was just a list of utter shit. What a waste of fucking time. Even if the thing does go ahead, that's going to be crap.
The other thing I learned from the Warski stream, no, you're right. I mean, there are so many things that could kind of pick apart here. And obviously, this is a case where people are putting together a conference who don't know what they're doing, because they kind of did things in the wrong order. You know, if you're going to put together a conference, yes, the physical space is important, although you can be flexible on that, because there are a lot of options you have and a lot of ways you can reconfigure the conference itself. What's really most important is to organize the conference, whether it's it has to have some kind of theme, obviously, even if it's free speech. And then you would want to organize the panels in terms of who would be, you know, what would the panels be and who would be leading the panel. They would solicit people come to speak on the panel. How much time would they have? And getting people to agree and things like that. So you have to like basically do the bare bones of the conference first. And what Andy Warski expressed on one of the too many hours of live streaming that I've listened to about this was that he learned from Tim that nobody on the other side, and nobody on the sort of progressive side of the YouTube community was contacted about getting involved until after all of the speakers were announced. And he thought that we would be involved earlier on, and that this was not going to be really about politics. It was just a chance for people to get together and get drunk.
Well,
he's a really deep thinker.
Yeah, that was put paid to the lie. Everyone was invited. In theory, everyone could attend, but no one on our side was invited until later on, until they found they could do drama with Michael Rowlands and whoever else. No one was invited. If you look at the people who were invited, it's a far right circle jerk. That's all this was ever going to be. It's a joke.
And interestingly, it's the alt-right who are complaining that it's this sort of sham free speech conference, which is really just a sort of a YouTube skepticon that's all about bashing feminists and SJWs and not actually being about free speech. Because if you were about free speech, then people would be able to use your conference in order to exercise their free speech, not listen to you talk about your version of free speech.
Yeah, and there's a
The
certain
critique from the alt-right toward the skeptic right in terms of demanding space in their conferences.
yeah, and there's a certain truth in the sense that it's hypocritical of them to say we're for absolute free speech and then say, oh, but not that free speech, because then we'd have to defend Richard Spencer and the like, who are absolutely indefensible on any fucking reasonable level. And one of the things I found most frustrating with the lies were with based mama is that it's if you look actually at the screenshots of the conversation she's had with various people involved, it's the lies, the constant lies. She says, I've seen discussed with a few of the people on the alt right or alt light that, oh no, we can't talk about that because we don't have the time and space. But she's saying that at the specific moment when nothing's set in stone. We're literally the panels that the panelist I had written out. That's completely different to what it became, or not completely different, but different. That those weren't set in stone. That they didn't know how specifically big it was going to be. So clearly, she was trying to have her cake and eat it. She wanted to have the edginess of having some of these big alt-right, alt-light characters, but without having to actually they want, which is their ability to say, oh, white people are brilliant and we need a white ethno-state, because then she'd have to defend why you're allowing these people at your conference in the first place. And it's that two-facedness which I found quite distasteful, actually. Either do the decent thing and don't have these people at your event, or actually have some backbone and defend it.
And they do want to sort of have it both ways, to claim that it's free speech, but then say no to Richard Spencer, who said he was interested in attending, or Amos Yee, or
Yeah.
some of the other panel topics that people, when they offered what they wanted to talk about, were rejected from a free speech event and told, no, you can't speak on this topic, but you can speak on this topic over here.
Well, not just that, but like I say, the ban on talking about identitarianism, even though literally the first list that was produced had the history of identitarianism in Ireland. You think, well, I'm sorry, you either want to talk about identitarianism or you don't. And frankly, I think another disingenuous aspect of this is that they claim they don't want to talk about identitarianism when they've got two overtly Muslim panels and two or three others which basically would descend into anti-Muslim rants. Basically, you've got these people who moan constantly about how white straight men are really badly put upon. Oh yeah, but they're totally not identitarian. I mean, it's just it's such either an inability or an unwillingness to accept the reality of who and what they are.
And this is why I said it was important to understand the themes of the conference. They should have had a discussion before they let anybody invite anyone anywhere, or even thought about a location. Who gets to speak?
Yeah.
Because there's a really easy answer to that question. Either everybody gets to speak, or we get to say who speaks. And they didn't ask that question. And therefore, they got a lot of different answers, and the answer was made up as it went along. And the answer was made up by, it looks like, mostly based mama, because she had the power as the person organizing the conference. But who was she consulting when making these decisions?
Yeah.
In terms of democratic representation, right? And this is why they were so. It seems like they were focused on the trappings of a conference, right? The things that you see when you go to a conference. So like location and big names. And, they probably learned the lesson from MythCon in terms of blowback from having really controversial people getting, negative attention drawn to your event, that they wanted to cover their butts. So they were more worried about, raising money and getting a facility than they were about asking those deep questions. Who gets to speak and who gets to decide? And how do we come to a process of, panel suggestions? Do we have because this is what happens at conferences in academic settings, you do a call for papers or panels. People bring back their suggestions with 3 or 4 guests or whatever else, or someone contacts you because they want to bring you into a panel. And then those suggestions are put to a committee and they look through them and go, okay, yes, no, yes, no, yes, no, based on these criteria. Usually, if I'm honest about conferences, because they don't want to turn away money, they're like, can we fit you in somewhere? So it's really more about sort of sliding people into panels where they're tangentially related so that you can come to the conference too, or kind of putting together a hodgepodge of papers within a certain discipline, as much as possible. And it doesn't seem like that process, they were just allowed to sort of that a little bit at the start, but the review process just seemed to be arbitrary decision of the conference organizer. And then, of course, you have to have realistic expenses in terms of what a conference is going to cost. And it seems like they raised a whole lot of money. And yet a lot of the people who are making the conference money are flying in on their own dime. So then there's a question of transparency. You're attaching other people's names to this venture. It's now financial. And what happens to you and how you spend the money isn't just about you and your decisions. You've got an obligation to everybody tied to it. And it's just a complete clusterfuck, in my opinion.
I mean, it was amateurish bullshit. The practicalities were never really taken into account. But anyway, we said we wanted to engage a little bit more with the chat. So a couple of points that have just been raised. Someone asked, is Kilroy officially dead? No, apparently it's still ongoing. Although it doesn't seem that any of the people who were sort of the big draws to the event, are actually going to go now. So I'm not sure it's.
Well, you finished. Sorry, but then I really got to jump in on that. Oh, Kevin, are you still there?
Is in the.
Okay, now I can hear you.
Chat. Anti-social media is in the chat. We shouted you out, so shut up, you salty little bitch.
Hey, can I go back to the last question? Can you restate what that point was? Because there was something I wanted to actually say on that.
Okay, yeah. Someone asked whether it was officially dead, the event, and basically the main speakers who were going to be drawing a crowd aren't going, but apparently the event is still ongoing, as it were. But I'm not sure it will happen, but officially it's still alive.
If it does happen, what is going on now might be even worse for the con itself, because several people had fans buy tickets to that event, assuming they were going to go. Like, I think Lauren Southern isn't speaking, but she's attending. Andy Worski isn't speaking, but he's attending. And those people aren't going to want to sit through necessarily every single panel, so they're going to be outside with their fans. I think Worski said he's going to be out with the...
Yes, you can have like a quarter full rooms then, yeah.
Yeah, they're going to actually draw people off of all of the conference panels by being sideshows. And, if the alt-right all kind of show up, Lauren Southern is there, and other people go and they attend in order to cultivate relationships and see people, the only people that's going to hurt, it's Kilroy.
Yeah, so essentially it's going to be an alt-right networking event with about 10 people watching 6 people talk. It's going to be a joke. Yeah.
We'll have to see, we'll have to see how many people demand their money back, how many people, the whole refund process, how that's going to work. There are once you start dealing with, tens of thousands of dollars, you need to be careful, like you need to keep track of stuff. So
yes,
and give people who don't want to come their refunds. Yeah. And of course, if a bunch of people demand refunds and they're not buying tickets because they can see Lauren Southern at night or Andy Worski at his pub crawl. Yeah. They just bought the ticket to Arizona and got their hotel room, but they don't have to go to the con. Oh.
Yeah, it's a shit show from start to finish. And I can't wait to see the further devolvement, because this isn't the end. There's going to be so much more shit coming out of this, because it's a joke. It's again, whenever these slacktivist idiots try and get something actually going, can really muster. We saw it to a degree with Sargon and his petition to ban social justice courses, whatever the fuck that means. I still don't know what that means. This is all I can muster. Anything beyond clicking a button becomes a shit show.
It's not easy.
And that's all they can do, because they're not serious people. They're
Oh, you still there? You seem to have dropped out. Or I dropped out. One of us is dropping out. I don't know what the problem is. But in case it's me, I'll keep talking. Right, so Kevin was just saying, sorry, I got all distracted by the tech problems. Yeah, I think with the Kilroy thing, the problem might be the fact that conferences are really quite a lot of work. They're very difficult to organize, to put on, to sort out. And there's so many details, and especially with things like, organizing timetables and flights and organizing hotels. But that doesn't mean, that it's not going to blow up in your face if you don't do it well. So this is just weird. I don't see Kevin's gone. He's just not there. Well, guys, I guess as long as Kevin's gone, maybe someone can tell him. He might just be talking. Well, I guess he would hear me if he was still around. And my mic seems to be working. So what I'm going to do is just keep talking. And we can move on a little bit here from Kilroy to the Kraut NT ongoing saga. This is a multi-part unfolding drama that's going from interesting place to interesting place. I literally just learned new facts about these events within a half an hour of going on live. I was sort of following up, doing videos and chasing down things on Twitter and things that people had posted to provide for this hangout, and learning as I went and following leads as I went and other references, and it's just been quite the evening. Hey, Kev's back. I'm very happy. Yeah, you're back.
I'm back. My internet decided to stop, which is not ideal.
No, not during a live show. But I was just, I had moved into the Kraut thing, but if there's any, we can go back to finishing up Kilroy, if there was any further points.
No, we'll move on to Kraut and Flea as anti-social media, to mention for the 20th fucking time called his video. Anyway,
I want to charge him £5 now every time he gets a shout out on my channel, because the first 5 are free, mate. After that, you become sponsored by anti-social media.
Kevin Christie's Happy Hour, sponsored by anti-social media.
There we go. Right. Well, all right, so moving on to the Kraut thing. I want to say that when it comes to this, and I've watched way too many hours of live streams on this topic, and it is, I have to say, I'm just absolutely fascinated by it. Again, there's nobody here involved in this that I really like, so I'm not taking anybody's side. But it has just, for me, like, it's like watching a political explosion going on between the Kraut thing, and then we'll talk about Jeff Holiday and Coach Red Pill and the alt-right's attempts to sort of get one over on skeptical YouTube and become sort of trying to take their place, I think, a little bit in terms of status and providing leaders for the movement. But what tends to be the case is that you get in these hangouts, especially when you get multiple people in a hangout, and a lot of the time is taken up with personal stories, maybe some eyewitness accounts, arguments, going back and forth. And what they don't spend a lot of time on, for being people sometimes associated with the skeptic community, is evidence-based. Therefore, I've gone through and tried to collect all the evidence that has happened since our last show. So since our last show, actually, Kevin, do you remember where the saga was when last we left the Kraut Discord debacle?
Yeah, it was along the lines of, there was no actual evidence of doxing, except some of the information from the Discord server, which was supposed to be sort of private, being released, and so we were vaguely, sympathetic towards Kraut's treatment.
Oh. Sorry, that was me. That was my bad. Yes, sorry. It was Kraut's treatment.
Even when I'm here, she's trying to shut me up. This is misandry on a next level misandry. Yeah, we were vaguely sympathetic towards Kraut, but considering how he ran away subsequent to that, I think was rather telling, and some more stuff's come out, and you think, actually, they were dickheads. But basically, we hadn't reached quite that stage when we last left off.
That's right.
All of 48 hours ago, whatever the fuck it was.
Like literally in the last few days, yeah. I was officially on the, sort of innocent until proven guilty on Jeff Holiday. I said I hadn't seen any information that he doxed anyone or tried to do anything like that. And the same with Kraut, that there hadn't been evidence that I'd seen myself in order to sway me to that idea. And yeah, so we were totally giving them like benefit of the doubt and not jumping to conclusions based on a personal animosity toward both of them, which I think there's mutual. Well, no, I mean, fact is, like, Jeff Holiday's always hated me and just my existence, so I don't really have to do anything to him. But yes, I guess I should take over now. So that's where we left off. Since then, there have been more live streams, more videos, and in some ways, at least for me, people are starting to provide a bit more evidence. So I've got our little happy hour folder here, which I'm going to open for you and then share my screen.
Yes. Let's do that. Oh no! Oh no!
But not that.
Fucking, yeah, no, we don't want Logan fucking Inception.
So there we go. I got my control room up.
Seeing one of me in the mirror in the morning is bad enough. Jesus.
Right. So let's. I guess we've got 3 folders here, 3 doors. Where would you like to start, Kevin?
At the beginning. Oh.
Very good. Well, it's kind of like we're either going to talk about Kraut or we're going to talk about Jeff.
Which one would you prefer to talk about? Seems like your name's first in the title, and therefore
I guess the more there are more bombshells in the Kraut folder, so we'll just go with the Jeff folder. So the Jeff folder, I guess if this was a movie, this would be like the B plot line, like the subplot of the main arc plot. Background to this is there is like beef between Jeff and Coach Red Pill, and I had watched some things by Coach Red Pill and said, he's being hyperbolic, and he still is. I mean, I'm not gonna say that he's not hyperbolic. What I will say is that on one of his points, he's convinced me that he actually has a pretty legit claim, a grievance against Jeff Holiday in the way that he's behaved with his information. Now, on the issue of like, I watched his video before we went on air, and he's the problem with him that I see is that he just sort of tries to throw everybody under the bus instead of being a bit more tactical about who he wants to be mad at. So within the video that he recently did, it was 30 minutes long, and he just sort of seemed to slap it together. It was supposed to be planned, but he didn't. He has a big section on this New York Times reporter. I think this is not that important of a part of the story. And then he throws Sargon under the bus and says that Sargon should have known this was all happening. And I'm like, there's no love lost between me and Carl. But even I don't think Sargon has anything to do with this, nor do I think that he should have known about it, nor do I think that as the leader of the skeptic community that he had a moral obligation to know about this and stop it. So that's what I
can't help but feel that there's a certain amount of, like, you can't expect too much by way of ethics and decency from rats deserting a sinking ship, basically.
Well, true. Yeah, well, insofar as just, so I wanted to like go on the record to say he has convinced me. Well, at least what is more important is that I've been convinced by the evidence. I'm pretty sure it was a Warski stream. I think it was the one where Coach Red Pill and Jeff got in like a pissing match on air because Coach Red Pill said he was going to come to Kilroy and track Jeff down, and Jeff was like, what are you going to do? What are you going to do when you get there? What are you going to do?
They're going to have some fucking mad sex. Some absolutely crazy sex.
Coach Red Pill did say afterwards he was embarrassed by how he behaved because he sort of was very upset. But he did, I think, if you want to put it this way.
They're both grown men with children and stuff. And you think, oh my God, you're acting like fucking 12-year-olds. It's embarrassing.
From the outside, even though I think that in that case, Jeff landed a blow. It wasn't a knockout punch, but Coach Red Pill is going to get the technical knockout here, the TKO, because he got Jeff in that stream to admit that he had seen his Coach Red Pill's docs on kiwi farms and shared it with the group, saying, look at this stuff is on here. I don't know what to do about this, apparently. But he didn't just say, hey, I found this thing on kiwi farms what do you think I should do about it? According to the way Jeff describes it, if I get this wrong, people can correct me. He said he posted the link and shared it to one person in a DM and then a DM group. And I was like, okay, that's like chess, right? Jeff just admitted that he was, if nothing else, spreading your docs. Now, just want to say, people yell at me because when I was challenged on what I was saying about bearing under a comment section in your video when you had about 5,000 subscribers, and I said the link, it's at this location, and then put the link to the ED article that only had his real name that he uses in his YouTube channel and his job, which he mentions in his own videos. There's no personal information in that ED article. And there wasn't ever. If you go all the way back in the archives to the very start of it, they have a link to his channel and that's it. So when you're spreading a docs, Jeff has to at least said he was spreading docs. And in this case, the ED article didn't have personal, it had his name that he published and his job that he talked about because he put it on LinkedIn. He was promoting himself on LinkedIn. That's not like going and getting someone's home address, which has happened to me. They're old addresses because I don't live there anymore because I don't because I'm in the States. But so Jeff admitted that on air. And I think, I don't think Coach Red Pill took advantage of that admission as much as he probably should have been. But anyway, he also said that Jeff had been menacing him by keep making references to things in his docs that he knew about. And sorry, that just sounds like something Jeff would do because that's exactly what Bering does. And these guys are peas in a pod. And I finally, I heard these allegations, people talked about it. Coach Red Pill mentioned being menaced, and I get that. I totally get what it's like to have somebody menacing you with your private information. Again, I can show the screenshot of someone saying, oh, yes, actually it was Bering saying, I've had your docs for months. But we've got some evidence here we can take a look at. And these are archived shots. They're linked up on Twitter, but for the purposes of being able to read it. I don't know if you can see here, so I'll read it out. It's from Jeff, and it's at Coach Red Pill, quoting him from some thread. And you can see that when it was taken, it was 110 days old. This was tweeted out on the 27th of September of 2017.
101 days.
101 days. No. Thank you for the correction.
We need to be chronologically spot on here. Let's not.
I
didn't have slapdash fucking timestamps. It's ridiculous.
Right. So that he posted that on Twitter. It went out.
And by the way, that's actually, I know we're beating up on Jeff here, but that's actually true. Coach Red Pill does have some fucked up ideas about American women. There's no doubt about that.
Oh, yeah. I'm not going to defend the content. I'm just showing the evidence. I'm not. Yes. Like I said, I'm not taking sides here.
Yeah.
Then
I just thought it was worth mentioning because we talked about this off air. It's just a clusterfuck of horrible bastards on both sides. So there are going to be points where you'll defend a person like, say, Coach Red Pill on this occasion, even though he's a scumbag too.
Yeah.
So I think it's worth mentioning that they're also scumbags. We're not saying these are good people, we're on their side. It's just in this particular piece of scumbag versus scumbag action, scumbag on scumbag violence.
Action, I like better. I like action better.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because that sounds vaguely sexual. On this particular occasion, scumbag A was worse than scumbag B. Yeah. That's your thing, anyway.
In this tweet, someone's asking Jeff, how did you come across a Reddit post he made 101 days ago? And Jeff replies, excavating for lulz, some hilarious shit in there. Now, I just want to say that nobody found anything like this by me with Bering stuff, because I never did shit like this. I didn't go digging. Jeff is digging around in people's old Reddit stuff, looking for stuff to throw at him on Twitter. Now, is that technically doxing? It's definitely going in and putting up stuff in publishing. I'm not going to call it doxing. I'm going to call it shit and being shitty and looking around for docs potentially.
And also, it's a little bit creepy. Searching back 101 days through someone's shit. How far did he go back exactly? Ridiculous.
That's part of it. That's why, like, it's not like I just came across this. He actually says he's excavating. So yeah, skeezy. Right. So the first time that he's a swad, shit with a docs that we have here is Jeff replying or adding to Coach Red Pill. I had to kind of, sorry, I cut it off poorly, but you can see the originals are archived. And he says, yes, because a biologist, psychologist, two chemists, and a biochemist are wankers because you don't like them. Dude, are you serious? And do we need to address your own problems with certain academics? That is a reference to information that was doxed. And I think it's put up on Kiwi Farms on that, or it's out there. And Jeff is here referencing on, you can see the 4th of December, that he knows about this information.
Yeah,
and
it's a wink, wink, nudge, nudge as to, I know this personal information about you. It is quite menacing. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah. It's like what Bering does when he, sent Danny that, how'd you like me to introduce you as this?
With his fucking,
give you a shout out.
With his address in his school,
yeah. The next time he does it here, and I don't really get this reference because I haven't dug enough deeply, but according to Coach Red Pill in the Warski stream, when Jeff says, we'll see how harmless I am soon, Gus is actually referring to another individual that is part of the doxed information. Again, I can't independently verify that because I haven't read anything about that, but that is according to Coach Red Pill, for whatever, if you want to believe him or not, that is a reference to information that Jeff has on him from his docs. Now, the other thing, just want to put this up, Jeff claiming, I'm guilty of a lot of things in life, but not doxing. Just want to make that point. And also I've got here, the source of the excavation tweet came from this, from JF. He's been pretty out in front, disseminating information.
The most Frenchly named man ever, Jean-François Guérepe.
Yes.
It's almost Pepe Le Pew.
That's yeah. And then finally, what have I got here? Oh, sorry. Take that out. There was so I didn't realize, my bad, and hopefully it was very poor quality, but that was V being a complete shit.
Well, there you go.
Yeah. So basically what the case is here, although to be fair, it's a YouTube channel, so there is a channel out there that V posted that is looks to be Coach Red Pill. So what V's point was there's no point saying that your name was a dox because your name is on YouTube, which is like somebody else we know. So again, not taking sides, but also just want to point out, so that's also the case. I'm just presenting evidence that I have found thus far. And that's the last thing too is a lot of people, not a lot of people, oftentimes in the chat when Jeff was brought up, his absolutely terrible comment to JF's girlfriend was brought up. And people were sharing it, so I have a copy of it. At this point, it's just sort of inflammatory. I don't know if you've seen it, Kevin, or if it's worth putting it up, or we can just move on to the Kraut stuff.
I haven't seen it, so we might as well have a look. If it's public information, we're not doxing anyone. Let's have a look. Yeah. Oh no, a French dude known for fucking women so stupid this takes systems. Oh, that's
awful.
That's pretty ripe. Yes.
Yeah, that's Jeff all over. All right, so this is why Coach Red Pill is.
He says horrific shit quite regularly about people as well.
And it sounds like he's got a habit of just saying, sorry, I was drunk.
Yeah.
Or I was mad. But then not drunk tweeting and not mad tweeting.
And again, he's a grown man with a kid. You got to be a bit more responsible with the way you act. You're a role model.
I would think so. Yeah. So this idea. So I just want to say, as somebody who was falsely accused of doxing, and falsely accused by Bering because he misrepresented things Tim said in a private conversation, and then never actually showed the conversation in any sort of like fullness. To show that Tim actually never said what he claimed he said. And Jeff Holiday being friends with Bering and being shoulder to shoulder with him, the fact that he is doing this kind of stuff, like digging around in people's old Reddits and menacing them with their doxing information in order to harass them, Yeah. If I had done any of these things, I wouldn't be on the internet. I wouldn't be on the internet right now. I couldn't be. But Jeff Holiday wants to condemn me and then do this kind of stuff.
Yeah, the
Come on.
hypocrisy in these people is ridiculous. Absolutely
Come
ridiculous.
on.
And you know Baring will defend Jeff because the lack of integrity with these people is ridiculous. And they've already shown with their false accusations to you that evidence doesn't matter to them.
No, it's about slander. And the fact
Yeah.
is that, yeah, I mean, anyone could, like, Jeff posted this stuff himself. It's not like anyone had to go digging for it. It was in his Twitter feed until he tried to delete it, but the internet remembers,
Yeah.
So anyway, so just, I just want to say, like, Baring really owes, based on the evidence that, the internet was able to pull up on his friend's behavior. You want to say that I was bad for spreading a dox in the comment section? You know what? Fine. I'll take that criticism from you, Baring, but then I want to see a video exposing Jeff Holiday and everything he's done.
No, but that's okay because Jeff Holliday's on the right, as same as Baring, and he's got a cock, so clearly beyond reproach.
And according to Jeff, he did spread a dox.
Yeah.
And not just like, again, ED didn't have anything that Baring didn't put up online himself. And Jeff said that he linked people to kiwi farms. So putting that out there, right?
Yeah. Should we have a look at our favorite German/Austrian, whatever the fuck he is? I don't
know. Yes. Right. Well, Kraut had said that it wasn't a doxing server, that the intention of the server wasn't for doxing. I still think that's the case. I think what we're looking at here are the actions of a few individuals associated with the Discord server. All the stuff that we just looked at from Jeff Holiday did not happen inside the server. Nor did he say, and there's no evidence that he, like, unless someone wants to show me him putting things on the Discord server about Coach Red Pill. Sorry. I'm going to need to take I've been talking a lot. I'm going to need to take a drink here.
Yeah, but I will say, even though it is only a few people involved with the server, I think it's worth bearing in mind that I think probably Kraut is one of those individuals, fortunately.
Right. Yeah. In terms of communications and and how they got information back and forth. But anyway, right. So to this, first, I guess there's just evidence that has been put out from the Discord server. I got this from a video called "The Beautiful Destruction of Kraut and Tea," I think, and the video is a series of screenshots, but also like memes and artwork, and I think the face of Kraut and Tea, but I've never seen his face. So, but they have this one guy over and over. So I just say, be warned, if you want to go look at that video, you might come across that.
Yeah, no, well, his face has been out there for a while.
Okay. Yeah,
it's become something of a meme. Where people have made him into the cartoon of the stereotypical Jewish guy.
Oh, right.
Sort of done his face like that, but it's him.
Right. Well,
because his fans are such lovely people,
Yes, yeah. Well, this is it. I mean, I'm just like time out. And maybe we should have started with this. And actually, if I could go back now, I would have. It's because we kind of had the technical problems that I jumped into this. But it sounds like Kraut is in a really bad way right now. And I think I know for Tim, and who said this on Twitter, and a lot of the people in the progressive community, that, the internet it's just the internet, and don't do anything, don't make any sudden decisions. Don't make any big choices right now in your life. Maybe just drop out, take some time and think, but don't do anything silly. And and don't make any huge decisions, huge permanent decisions. Give yourself some time to figure out what you do after this, and then, go on. Right. So in here he says, and again, this was on a video with like background music and no talking. So I think the context for this is Kraut saying, if I had made this info public, the alt-right would have come to his defense. I want people close to the alt-right to expose this. And I think the implication there is just that he has information on somebody. He's got something that he wants to release.
But basically, he doesn't want to get blamed for releasing it.
Yes, from the sounds of it. Right. So in terms of like, yeah, his tactics and his strategy. This, again, without context, I can only make an inference. Maybe you can help because I don't know all of this stuff. But someone is saying this Kraut gets people fired nonsense is going way overboard. To which a person named Sandra replies, "It was stupid to contact UKIP, Kraut, not because I care about Rage After Storm, fuck that bitch, but because I foresaw this situation as a possibility. It's used as ammo. Well, I think the best action is to simply demand evidence." And then there's also, so there's two possible readings. And then also, by the way, Jeff Holiday, aren't you a neurology student? I'm not sure if this is meant to be in terms of like Kraut contacting UKIP or showing that Jeff Holiday like was tagged into this conversation.
Well, I mean, the only thing I know about that is that apparently Kraut contacted Rage After Storm's employer or something, which I don't know. She wasn't employed by UKIP, was she? I don't know.
I have no idea.
But yeah, apparently that happened. But that could, again, that's because it's one of these internet rumors. I don't really know, but
Yeah.
that's the story that goes around.
So I don't want to like interpret this. And the other thing too that we didn't talk about yet is the fact that we know that the alt-right are propagandists. And so what gets released and why, and the narrative that it's given is not like just straight up reporting. There was a tactical operation run here that we're going to talk about a little bit later. But so we have to always kind of read these released information with a little bit of a lens of, not accepting it always on face value, questioning it.
Well, it's remarkable that the alt-right have taken fake news as their kind of mantra for anything they don't like, because literally everything they do is fake news. It's ridiculous.
This one is just Kraut saying he has Coach Red Pill's name. These are two tweets that were released, and then there's information that's blocked out. The next one is sort of similar. It's him reporting the same information, but to a different person. To Zeph, "I have Coach Red Pill's real name," and Zeph says, "Whoa."
And not just that, but Kraut is giving information there to Zeph, who is a known doxer, a really quite unpleasant person, it would seem.
Right. And yeah, so, there's also a question if one person gives another person information in a private conversation, because this is a direct message history. This is not posted to a group.
But specifically, you're giving it to someone who you know is a
that
doxer.
is true. Yes, in this case,
there's no way you possibly can think that information isn't going to get released. In fact, it's even slimier than releasing it yourself, because you're doing it and essentially not even throwing him under the bus, because he's a scumbag too. He deserves to get thrown under the bus. But you're trying to make it look like you were not the one doing it. It's really underhand and shitter.
So that was posted in the 3rd of November, and then on the 19th, he says, "It's happening. Jim's friends are now in the case. We now have to sit back." Don't know if of course, it's a direct message, so it might not be related to that at all. It might be a completely different conversation that he was following up on. However, the way that this has been interpreted, "It's happening. Jim's friends are on the case," has to do with a series of...
Again, interacting with the chat, I'm being informed that apparently she wrote a blog for UKIP, and they were informed about her YouTube views, upon which she lost her position.
Ah, right. So that was the admission.
Yeah.
Then that he had contacted someone's employer.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, it's just so strange, I don't. Yeah, okay. Stay focused, Kristi. Right. Then I think we've got pretty much everything except we've got Liz being very regretful here, but I think that's to Coach Red Pill, so we're gonna move that over there. And then so basically we've got this one, which is yikes. And I have the source for this that I can show you who circulated it, but it's a conversation you can see here, and Kraut in his responses, basically someone saying, "I'm sorry for what you had to go through." And he says, "I took it too personal from the start." Yep. Then he says, "Have a happy Christmas." And then writes the line, "I gather the docs of Coach Red Pill." And the person replies, "Love you too," almost at the same time, which is why they're like typing simultaneously. That's not like a response, I think, to that Coach Red Pill thing. Then it said, "I gave him to the Guardian because I thought you would defend him. Because I thought you would defend him. Don't be too rough on those who worked with me." And he says he doesn't know if he'll come back. All the best to whatever you plan. Now, I have to say, someone once tried to start a conversation with me on Facebook and then took a screenshot of that and tried to put things into it, but because I give very brief responses, it was hard for them to manipulate it. So I would question this normally as whether or not this is authentic. It was circulated here by, again, JF, the guy who's sort of become the superstar out of this, in the new sort of rising star of the alt-right as a consequence of this little operation. And then we get into here, which is the validation of that conversation. I assume here that Liz has taken, basically saying she was the person on the other side of that conversation who was cut out from the pic you saw. She writes, "Thank you, JF. I was saving that last tidbit that Kraut was the one who gave us the name and found the actual doxed dirt. We only found credentials, something I've blanked out. That is under Coach Red Pill's YouTube handle and public videos and an old Twitter." So you're going to be wondering why I blanked out part of it. It contains, how shall I put this? It contains an assertion that I've only literally learned about within 45 minutes to an hour before going on air. I'd never heard it before. I had no chance to investigate it. And before I would put something like that on air, I would need to look into it myself and judge it for myself. So until such time that information comes, if it comes up or becomes relevant, then maybe I'll do something else in the future. But at this point, I didn't feel comfortable. And I also talked to Kevin about this before we went on air. You were of the same opinion, or at least you were willing to concede or bend to my my arguments, or you agreed with me.
I think I would have done the same, because until you mentioned what it was, I had not heard of that claim made against him at all. So I don't know of the veracity of it, or even the veracity of the claim having been made, if that makes sense. So I don't even know how much of that is true, and so it's probably not fair to put that out there without any knowledge at all of what it was.
Precisely. This last one, it says Liz, but I don't actually think it's from Liz. I think it is. She's basically saying, in terms of this, sort of admitting, "I'm very upset too. I have to go for the day to get away from this. Never anyone ask me a favor like this again. I am so sorry, Coach Red Pill. I was told you were public." And Zeph is asking, "Can you care to explain this at Real Kraut? Was Coach Red Pill information already public when you asked us to do a background check, or was that a lie? Why turn me into an admin and then delete a bunch of channels?" And that goes on with the Zeph drama, where Zeph put out a video, and he basically, well, we didn't even talk about the Kraut apology. We're just going over the evidence. So these are the things I know. Now these are the Daves I know. Little shout out to all you Kids in the Hall fans out there. That's a deep cut.
You've totally lost me with that reference.
There are a bunch of Canadians and people who used to watch Comedy Central, I think, and with a big smile on their face right now. Anyway, so this is what, when it comes down to this, so-and-so can have their story, so-and-so can have their story. What I really care about is and to quote my colleague, "Nobody cares what you think, only what you can demonstrate." And in this case, that's what I've really been looking for, which is, what can you show me that these claims are true? And then, can I trust the source? So I'm presenting what I've been finding to you guys, because I think that's more, for you, it gives you a better, more direct experience with the evidence that's out there than just listening to 10 different people's versions of what's going on. And there are hours and hours of that. So I didn't want to do that. And of course, this also is ensnaring so many people. And what we're seeing is, I think, the real sort of clash between the alt-right and the YouTube right the right-leaning but anti-alt-right part of YouTube really getting taken down. And, I think they're not going to stop. I mean, some people have said, not some people have said, there's a guy in my history watching videos, and he'd hate me. I'm sure he absolutely despises me because he thinks Sargon is his favorite YouTuber. But the guy, to his credit, he's been doing really good documentation on this and kind of trying to track it and follow it as it's been going along.
Can I just
hate Jeff Holiday. Like, there are people out there who really hate Jeff Holiday, and it's not to like the Kraut level of hell, because I'm sure he's on lockdown, and I'm sure what he's experiencing being trolled by alt-right trolls is 10 times worse than what I experienced getting trolled by Bearing trolls. And and I had a pretty shit experience. So I really, on an empathetic level, I feel bad for him that is happening.
I had a significant taste. I mean, my channel was nearly taken down by the fucking alt-right scumbags. I know what that's like, and they are unpleasant. But obviously he's on a bigger scale, so he's going to attract more attention, which is just horrible, absolutely horrible.
Yeah.
Can I just briefly respond to someone in the chat who said that she wasn't fired from the UKIP? Basically, just because she wasn't paid does not mean she wasn't employed. If you're writing a blog for UKIP, doesn't matter if you're being paid. That's a reasonable platform to have, and all the rest of it. And by the way, I'm not disagreeing with her having been fired, but the idea that you can contact someone's employer and get them fired was something that was absolutely wrong and completely disgusting and horrible when it was someone else doing it.
And just for the record, for people in the chat who are going, you didn't contact Thunderfoot's employer, did you, Kevin?
No, I did not. I was not part of that. I wasn't even making YouTube videos at the time that took place.
So before you get the whole contact the employer, what about so just on the record, it was before my time too. So don't throw that at us.
But by the way, I'm not even saying that contacting someone's employer is always inherently bad, especially when she was writing for a political thing, for a political party. Her political views are therefore obviously of relevance. So I'm not saying that's even wrong. I'm just saying it's hypocritical to say in one instance it's disgusting and wrong, and then do it yourself.
Right. So I've been talking for a while. Do you want to talk a little bit about the Kraut apology and it being rejected pretty much uniformly, and what happened after his apology video went out? Summary?
Yeah, well, yeah, he put out an apology, essentially, it seems, trying to save face. And yeah, a lot of the leading figures who were part of this campaign, as we said, what has been essentially a secret operation to essentially take over the skeptic community, and it's been around for quite some time. A lot of the leading figures in that basically said no and threw Kraut completely under the bus, which is understandable to a degree given what we've just seen. And he's now subsequently disappeared off the face of the planet. He's taken all of his YouTube videos down. I presume they're privated rather than having been deleted, but whatever. He's disappeared from Twitter, which is a shame to a degree because his Twitter was always enormous amounts of fun. He's fucking mental. And yeah, he's essentially disappeared. And as we mentioned, actually, I hope he doesn't do anything rash. But I have to say, I've had my worries about his mental health for quite some time. The video he made a while back, about the YouTube SJW community, in which he made enormous, ridiculous accusations, that was unhinged rambling. That sounded like someone who was genuinely mentally not in a good place, let's say. So he's been around for a while as a problem, and this stress has obviously tipped him over a certain edge. And I hope he doesn't do anything horrible, but ultimately, if he never comes back to the internet, I don't think the internet's going to be a worse place for it.
He said horrible things. I mean, he said awful, racist, bigoted things. That's absolutely the case. So it's more the sort of having just like a human to human empathy. You can disagree with somebody, but that doesn't want. And the thing, with dealing with trolls like this, it's not just like they, send pizzas to your house or whatever. You start to worry about your family member. You start to worry about people in your offline life who have only the guilt of association of knowing you, and suddenly they're put at risk. And so that's why it's the operation was amazingly successful. I think it was as well executed, run, and sort of exploited as Putin interfering with the US election, right? They had an undercover op going on with people who had infiltrated. I don't really know this whole Zeph person, but he sounds like, he was kind of a dodgy individual who had used people's information against them in the past. And they just sort of, lie in wait. And when you get the kind of information that, they sat there, I don't know, it looks like they were there. Some people were there, the sources, for a while, enough to kind of, they could have jumped at the New York Times thing and they didn't. And they could have jumped at a lot of things and they didn't. And then when it all came out, they rolled it out in it would be interesting to analyze actually, in terms of their tactics about when they released information and in what order and what story did they tell about the information, because it seems like they had the initial narrative, and then every doc drop that came, there's like WikiLeaks, there's sort of like it seems like there were at least three doc drums, maybe two only, but it seemed like there were three, and they all kind of like were supposed to feed into a different part of the narrative. And then Coach Red Pill, kind of like, I don't think he was necessarily part of it. He just took it really super personally, and he was a man going his own way, really.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he wasn't necessarily involved in it, but he's been used essentially as a pawn in the game.
Or he's kind of hopped onto the coattails of it,
Yeah,
because of Jeff Holliday's incidental, because Jeff Holliday then he had an in, and he already had something he didn't like Kraut, and he felt like they were coming after him, which, to be fair, like I said, I was wrong. They were coming after you, mate. They were totally coming after you.
Yeah.
So yeah, I will admit, this is like, you ever admit you're wrong? Yeah, you know what? Last time, in the absence of evidence, I made the conclusion that there was no sort of agenda to get Coach Red Pill, and that he was being hyperbolic. I think now there was people out there looking, obviously, to at his information, trying to menace him, bait him and things. And he was still being hyperbolic about it. But he was right about that part of it, at least.
Yeah, he was. That's the thing. Because he tried to oversell it initially, it looked like he was just, the lady doth protest too much type scenario. But yeah, they were definitely after him. And it's also odd that the only reaction they've had is when people on the alt-right have been threatened. I think that's rather telling of the way in which the skeptic community views the world.
In what way?
In that, when it was, say, me and you being menaced, or Danny Corks being menaced, that was fine. That was absolutely fine. Oh, it's all for the lols, man. But then once the alt-right are attacked, as Carl said in the video we watched in our last hangout, they don't see the alt-right as appropriate or worthy targets, which basically shows that they're sympathetic to them.
Yeah, in Carl's case, definitely. And before we came on air, the last thing, sorry, that I was watching was the JF guy had done a Mary Yule miss.
Millennial.
Yeah, chat with Millennial Woes. And they were just talking about, like the skeptic community, people come into it, they kind of get attracted to it because of the ponage and the feminism, and then they start to get more, questioning things and asking deeper questions. And at that point, they might come over to people with some core values like us.
Yeah, I've said it for a long time, that Carl and his ilk, Bearing, Jeff Holliday, all of these people, are an in to the alt-right. They're a feeder system.
And as long as they keep playing footsie with them and saying, hey, you know what, democracy is not under threat, we can bring in fascists and let them give their side of the point of view, and the best ideas will win. Like, no, propaganda wins, because propaganda is easy, and looking up facts is hard. Look around your own chats. How much time did you guys spend looking at the evidence and going through it systematically and questioning it, as opposed to just taking people's word for what happened?
Exactly. Well, as we discussed last time with Carl, he was happy to put out the lie about the death of Heather Heyer, and it would only have taken him a minute to do the research, as we saw, but he didn't. So even he isn't doing the research. Why should we think that his subscribers are going to do the research?
And I'm comparing
propaganda is really easy to understand, whereas actually facts are often complicated and difficult to find, and the truth is often uncomfortable. Whereas a comfortable lie, which is what Carl provides, is just, like I say, just pushing them along the conveyor belt toward the alt-right.
And the other thing that I've picked up from watching a lot of these response videos and stuff, I mean, other than that one guy whose name I can't remember, and he probably doesn't want me to shout him out anyway, because it would be, oh my God, Kristi Winters shouted you out. Be like the kiss of death to anyone on the right. But yeah, this whole, Coach Red Pill made a video like I had to listen to in parts, because I think it's almost an hour long, and it's so light on facts and evidence. It's really like,
it's a Coach Red Pill video. Of course it fucking is. What were you expecting?
Well, this is it. I don't really watch his stuff. Okay, I've kind of gotten drawn in because of the Kraut thing, and then sort of this, followed his drama arc, plot C or whatever, through part of the B plot, right, with Jeff Holiday as this thing goes along. There's just he could have made a much better video just presenting evidence of Jeff Holiday being a total shit, and that would have actually been a lot more.
No, he basically sits down in front of two cameras and then cuts together the two camera footage of him just rambling on a topic that he doesn't understand. That's his entire fucking channel.
And there's a lot of this sort of, guys getting in a room together and talking about things. And I'm used to what we did here, comparing their responses and how they're doing it. When you and I did the exposing Bering had doxed himself and his fans, it helped. I had screenshots from Bering's, comment section in his music video thing, his Facebook where people had, where his own band manager had doxed him to the people.
It's evidence. Just you had evidence. Yes, that's not what these people do. They do talking shit. That's all they do.
So again, if there was anything on me like there is on Jeff Holiday, forget about it. But there's not, and yet the lie persists. And so to see Jeff Holiday getting tripped up on what he's been about, false accusation that he's thrown around, yeah, I'm not going to cry for that.
Indeed. And neither should you.
Yes, my innocence is my shield. A year on, still no evidence. You know why? Because it never happened. But Jeff did it, and people found it, because the internet remembers.
Yeah, and I have to say, as shitty as some of this has been, it's been fun to watch. No doubt about it.
Yeah. I am. It's replaced my drama.
Yeah, and by the way, the fucking idiots who say, "Oh, drama. Why no one's interested in the drama." Fuck off. Everyone's interested in a bit of drama. It never in human history has anyone, or not anyone, there might be the odd person, but the vast majority of people enjoy a little bit of gossip, a little bit of drama. Everyone does.
And in a way, this isn't just about the drama of Kraut and T and Jeff and Coach Red Pill. This is a struggle within the skeptic, the alt YouTube community. People who are the alt-light and cozied up with the alt-light and alt-right, and the alt-right. Alt YouTube is at civil war.
Yeah.
Because they're trying to, they're looking for subs. They're looking to dominate the conversation and to have their discourse and ideology be the one that gets the most eyeballs and clicks. And they're not going to not be invited to your free speech conference. They're going to demand their rightful place, because if you believe in it, you have to practice it, which means their views, no matter how vile, if you love free speech, you should let it happen.
Yeah, but I mean, that's the lie, isn't it? The absolute free speech has never and can never exist. So the idea that you could put on a conference like that, and well, you could put a conference on like that and have the alt-right speak, but you can't then claim to be, moderate, centrist type people, because you're not.
They want to have their cake and eat it too. They want to own the issue of free speech, but then actually not bear the social consequences of letting, people like Richard Spencer on their stage and associated with their conference the next time they try to book one.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, how many days has it been since we last talked? It seems like a week.
2. Well, yeah, but we've had a week's worth of nonsense crammed into 2 days. But was it 2 days or 3 days? Whatever. It's been fun anyway. I've enjoyed it. And I think, are we done here?
I'm thinking so, yeah. We only went 10 minutes over our happy hour. That's all right. I'll close up a little bit later tonight.
There'll be other ones. I'm sure there'll be other ones that'll go way long. At some point, because that's just the way things go.
So everyone, yes, thanks for your time and attention. I hope you heard or saw or found things in this stream that you haven't seen before, or put together in a different way from other things that you've seen in the past. And yeah, next time we will try to do one of these where we talk to the chat more often. But thanks to Kevin for keeping an eye on it and throwing in a few questions when appropriate. Appreciate that. Double duty. Well, I'm hosting, so you should be the co-pilot.
Well, I would host, but my channel is a bit fucked at the minute. Well, it's not fucked. I've got 1 strike, so I can't host. But we'll maybe next time we'll do it on my backup channel, and we'll just do a thing on there or something. I don't know.
Yeah, you're a bit flaggy right now. Your channel's a bit flaggy.
A little bit.
Yes, it's on the naughty step. So, okay,
Yeah.
guys. Well, thank you for watching all the way to the end of the video. I do appreciate your time and attention. I've been Kristi. Kevin's been awesome. You have been awesome. And goodbye from me. And goodbye from Kevin. Say goodbye, Kevin.
Goodbye, Kevin.
Bye, guys.